Hey guys, welcome back to GWiz Academy. So, finally, we have arrived to the end of the series of these chapters. We were learning HTML. So, while we started our journey of learning HTML, we had some around 27 chapters over here. So, what I have done is I have merged a few topics and I have excluded a few topics such as URL, encode, canvas, SVG, and XML. These were included here, but I have removed it as of now because I feel that some familiarity of CSS and JavaScript and some experience with those other technologies and overall web development is needed before we dive into these three topics. So even if as a canvas, if I start explaining you won't be even able to imbibe it as of now because canvas is nothing but a plain sheet that we get, and whatever we need to create, we can create a graphics, but to create graphics we will be using JavaScript. So if I write JavaScript code right now, you might get overwhelmed or you might not understand anything. So it is not right for now, as of now, and URL encode is just a concept. It is not something related to, especially related to HTML. So it's something that we will be learning once we start our programming journey, once we start learning Python or PHP or JavaScript, right? So these three chapters I have excluded it, and XML as well. It's not important right now to understand, but yeah, it is obviously good to know these topics. But yeah, I personally feel that we should not dump all the knowledge in the world. You should be very selective of what exactly you need to learn so that you can cover most of the concepts and to be efficient in your projects. So I think by now these 24 chapters are more than enough for you to get an expertise in HTML and start confidently so that you can in your web development journey. So right now these 24 chapters will make you perfect in HTML and will give you a boost in your confidence, and then we will be entering into our next course, that is CSS. So the next series will be CSS, and we will be learning a lot of styling aspects, animations and stuff like that. So it will give you a broader perspective about web development overall. So, and these 24 chapters and practice sheets, sample examples, and these asset files, everything I'll zip it and I'll include it under this lecture as well, so that you can simply download it and refer to these examples. And also you will be getting access to a practice sheet, reference sheet, we can say, Google sheet that we have used for many references in our older videos. So now this video, I'm not going to talk about any technical aspect related to HTML. We are not going to cover any new topic, but there are some important tips and advices that I want to share before we close this HTML series. So what are those? Let's remove this. Okay, so what are the important tips that I want to share? So first thing is, let me quickly go ahead and add a chapter. New file ch24 underscore it's tips.html. Final tips.html, right? So see, till this 20 chapters or 24 chapters, what we did is we used to add this boilerplate every time we create a new file, right? HTML, and then we need to add head, and then we need to add title, and then we need to add body, isn't it? So it's time consuming, I understand, but once you If you are a complete fresher, if you are learning HTML for the first time, then it is important that you type it manually, the way we did it in this course. But once you are completely familiar with these concepts, you don't have to type it manually again and again, because we write code to make things simpler and faster. That is why we code, and we don't have to do this. We don't have to do this repeated task again and again for every time we create any new files. So there is a shortcut. What is the shortcut? See, that's it. Just with one click, I have a complete boilerplate of HTML, and now directly go ahead and enter your HTML code. This I could have told you when we started here in our chapter 1, but I intentionally didn't expose you to this shortcut because I don't want you to use this shortcut while you were learning HTML. Once we start learning CSS or once we start learning Bootstrap, I will ask you not to type these things manually. Get started with this shortcut and enter these things in just with a click, just by one click, and then get started with your CSS part or Bootstrap part or any programming part or something like that. Don't worry about these things. But while learning, you will have to learn it the right way. So, what is the use of using this shortcut? What is the shortcut, by the way? The shortcut is nothing but we use a snippet, we use a technology called as emmet. This is this is already embedded into the VS Code if you are using, or if you are using some other code editor, then you might have to install this extension called as emmet, and you need to enable it so that you can use these shortcut. But if you are using VS Code, all you need to do is press shift and exclamatory, just type exclamatory and click enter. That's it. That will create a boilerplate for you like this. It will add a attribute called as language attribute. It will add meta tags like charset. It will define HTTP equivalent compatibility line as well, so that older versions of the browser of Microsoft will also be supported. And it will add a meta tag for your viewport as well. This is initial scale 1.0, in the sense the size will be perfectly fit for the screen. These are something that we need to write it manually. If you don't know this shortcut, in production you will have to memorize this and you will have to type it manually, and the chances are you might somewhere make some spelling error or something like that, and then you mess up things. Errors will show up and all those nonsense will happen. So what you need to do, you don't have to memorize these things. You just need to know why is this used. This is used so that our content is completely fit with the width of the viewport once the screen is loaded. And why we add this line is adding a compatibility, reverse compatibility to the older versions or Edge browser. This line is adding, or let's say it is telling what exactly, which charset are we using. UTF-8 is what we are using, and this attribute adds a language. It defines a language that we are using. It is English. That's it. So from the next time, whenever you start creating any HTML file in VS Code, what you need to do, shift and press one key, that will add exclamatory mark, and then click enter. That's it. It will add your boilerplate, and then you start writing your code. One more thing here is, this was the first step. This was the first tip that I wanted to share. Use emmet for boilerplate. Don't type it. It will save a lot of time. The second tip over here is use correct spacing. Let's say if you see here the HTML, where is the form that we created? This is the form, right? If you see, if I don't add any, spacing. If it looks like this, it is extremely hard to understand which is child and which is parent. So right now body is a parent and div is the child. So if I add a space and write it a little bit after a space, we clearly understand that body is a parent and div is a child. Now h1 and form both are the child of parent div, but here as you can see there is no gap, there is no space. So what is the first thing that you need to do? You need to add a space, right? And this form is also at the same level, so select the complete form till the form is closing, and then add one space. Space in the sense, just select the complete tag and then click on tab. It will just shift your complete form element to one space ahead, like this. Okay. So what this will mean is div is a parent. We will have this line clearly being shown, and then you can either add form here, but not here, right under this parent. You should not. This should be dedicated for its closing tag. Div should redirect us to the closing tag. We should clearly understand this is the closing tag. And then we can have h1 and form right here, and the second or third, it is fine. If h1 and these labels and inputs and all are direct child of this form, so we have added one more spacing, right? So this is the right method of adding space. So what if we do like this? Let's say 24. What if we do div and then we add h1 tag like this, and then we have let's say form here, and then we have input, and then we have label, and then we have br, and then we have again label, and then we have br, and then we have button. Are you able to understand anything? What is the document structure? Not at all. You won't be able to understand anything even if this space is removed. See, even vertically we need some space and horizontally we need some spaces. So to make it clear, right now if we add certain space, how easily this document structure can be understood. You can see it right away. See, this is a body tag. This body tag starts here and closes here, right? So what I'll do, I'll select, the first thing is HTML starts here and it closes here. So what I'll do, after HTML, whatever it is inside HTML, I'll add a space. The first thing is we created a space so that HTML start and HTML close is linked now. So head is a direct child of HTML, so one space is fine. Body is it under a head or under HTML? Head is under HTML, right? So one space is fine. So body start and body close is also at the right space, but the child elements of the body complete from here to here, we need one space. Perfect. Body start and body close. Now div is starting here and div is closing here, but we have too many roadblocks over here. So what I need to do, I need to select complete from h1 till form closes. I need to select and add one space in the sense click on tab. Now div start and div closes. Now head h1 tag is a direct child of div, so one space is already added. Okay, perfect. So form is starting here and it's closing here, but form is also direct child of div, so there is already a one space, so perfectly fine. But input is not a direct child of div, so it should not be here. So input is a direct child of form, so input should be one space away, right? And same way, label start and label close is the direct child of form, so it should be one space away. Now we have a br tag, so I'll add a space and then again a space. So br is as well direct child of form, so I'll add one space. And then we have label start, label close, it is a direct child of form, so one space. And then we have br direct child, so one space. Let's add a gap here so that it is easily identifiable. Button is a direct child of form, so one space. If we have something inside this div or something like this, let's say we have a div element. So what is the rule that we need to follow? If label is starting from here and label is closing here, okay, so label doesn't close, we don't have a closing label tag, okay, fine. So label starts here and div is starting here. Oh, okay, sorry. So we have this closing label tag over here, and yeah, so what we need to do, div is a child of label, right? So what I need to do, I need to add a space so that we understand that label starts here, label closes here, and we have a div element inside the label. So now it is easily understandable. This way we can easily identify where the document element starts and where is it closing, right? Where is the closing tag? And then so that we don't make any mistake, and it is much easier to understand the structure when we directly see. Right now we just have 30 lines of code, but in production we will have 300, 400, 600, 2000, 3000 lines of code. So it will get so much complex, and if you don't follow these small steps, you will make life miserable for yourself and for any other developer who is working on the website or a project which you have earlier worked on. That will leave a bad impression of your coding practices. So don't make those mistakes. Just use these simple tricks or tips, we can say. And related to emit, I just gave you one example of boilerplate, but there are so many other shortcuts that you can use using emit functions. So you can just Google emit shortcuts, and you can have a list of shortcuts and all those things. We will be slowly using those in our future advanced tutorials in CSS, or while we are writing our programming a code or something like that. But for now you just know one trick of emit, and we now understood why spacing is important. And third tip is always add comment to your code. See, if this is heading, I'll add a comment. So how to add a comment? Comment shortcut is click on Control and /. It will add a comment. So if you are using Mac, then we have command and /. So right now I can just simply click on Control and /. Here this is a form, or let's say contact form starts here. Or if there are multiple contact forms, we can say customer contact form, and then vendor contact form, and then partner contact form. Some comments so that it is easily understandable. Okay, whatever the code comes from here onwards, it is related to customer contact form. Or if you write some particular function or code, this will submit data to XYZ app, because this is a form and we are sending the data to some other application, third-party application. So we are writing it that this is going to submit data to XYZ app or something like that. Some reference or some commenting is good, considered as a good practice, so that it is easily your code will be easily understandable by any other developer who is working. So because the files won't be so small like this one, this is just for practice, this is nothing here. So the files will be very large, like let's say 100, 200, 300 or 800, 1000 lines of code. So you'll be creating 20, 30, 40 sections in a single page. So it will be very tough to scroll and understand and read. If I want to just go to my contact form, why will if I add this comment called as contact form, and if I submit this file to some other developer, he might directly go and search for this contact form comment and then click and update this code or snippet. Else, if I don't do this, what he or she will do is they will have to read the code from start to bottom and understand where exactly the code snippet is, and then they will have to make changes. So it will be huge time loss for them as well. So that it is best practice. It is very simple. It doesn't take much time. So start using this comment feature so that you can refer whenever you create a section. Just add a comment mentioning that this is this section, this is the footer section, this is a header section, this is a sidebar, this is a contact form, so that it is easily understandable by any other developer who is working on the project. And also, let's say if you come back after 1 year or 2 years, and if you have to change anything, even you will have to learn from start to end. You will forget everything what you have written, and you will have to analyze everything from scratch. So it is better that you leave a comment, so that once you come back to edit something, you can easily navigate to the comment and edit the particular snippet. So this was the third tip, and the fourth tip is always use small case, avoid hyphens, instead use underscore. So let's say if we created this HTML form and we had to assign some IDs, right, for ID, and we had to use customer name. So don't use hyphen here. It still works, but I recommend you not to use hyphens. Just use underscore, because it's a good practice. And in future, while we will be learning JavaScript and Python, you will understand why exactly this is the good practice that generally all the developers use. But for now, just trust me and just use hyphen. Just don't use hyphens and use underscores and small casing. Don't use cap casing, because there are several reserved words, and while writing program, or there are some things that has to be written in cap casing. So it is best practice that always use short small case. And there is a concept called as camel casing. So you can use camel casing as well, or use hyphens, use underscores. And yeah, always use small case and then underscores. This is the fourth tip. And the fifth tip is use a W3 validator. See, this is a code that we have written. Okay, so if I want to check whether this is up to mark or not, up to mark with the standards of W3, up to the W3 is a organization which manages the rules and regulation of how these HTML has to be written throughout internet. So if I want to validate whether I have written right HTML or not, or if there is any errors present in my code, what I need to do is I just need to go to validator.w3.org. This is the website, validator.w3.org, and you can add the URL and click on check, or you can upload the file, HTML file, and click on check. Or the third option I recommend you is directly paste the code over here. Whatever HTML code you have written, copy the entire code. I'll copy this entire code and go to my validator screen, paste it, and I'll check whether this particular code has followed the W3 standards or not. We have followed the standards, but we got 4 errors. Error warning 1 warning and 3 errors. What are the errors? Let's go ahead. So this is the use case. When we test our code, it tells us that, okay, these are the not so good, or this is the error that this particular HTML file has thrown. So the first thing is warning. Warning is nothing but consider we need to use language attribute to our HTML, right? Save it, and if I copy this entire code now and paste it, click on check. Now that warning has gone. We have now 3 errors. Now I can go ahead and check one by one what exactly is the error. The first error is form, second error is form, third error is text area. So the first error in the form is for attribute action on element form. What is the element? Form. Form is the element, attribute is action. Action is empty. Whenever we write a code for form, we don't leave this attribute empty at all. It's not a good practice because we need to tell the code where exactly this form data has to go. But right now we are learning HTML, so this action attribute doesn't make sense if I explain you right now. So I had intentionally kept it blank, right? So later on in our future series where we'll be learning JavaScript or where we'll be learning Python, I will definitely show you how to use this action attribute. The second error is bad value for attribute name. Bad value for attribute name. We can name this particular form. This is customer sign up form, something like that. We can name it so that we can refer it later on. And then, okay, this is good that I came across this error. And third thing is attribute value is not allowed on the element. Okay, so we have added value attribute for text area. Let me go scroll down and see text area value. Okay, so we don't need value attribute here. So save it. Not allowed on element text area. So on text area, we don't have value attribute. We should not have any value attribute, right? So these are the 3 things. So let me copy the complete code now and paste it here and check. Let's see if we removed some error. Yes, we have successfully removed. The action tab, obviously we couldn't remove because I don't think this is right time for me to explain you how this action attribute works. So obviously this is an error, but we will solve that error once we enter into our programming tutorial, right? Not now. So always try to check your code using this URL, right? Or any HTML validator online if it is available. So these are the few tips and on best practices that you need to make sure that you start implementing one by one while you're practicing so that you don't miss out on important stuff. So let me add it here under div. Let me add a comment and paste these points. Okay. So I'll share this folder as well, complete folder with all the code and these reference assets as well, and attach it with this lecture so that you will be able to easily practice it or refer it. Come back here and practice or refer, whatever you want to explore. So finally, congratulations, you have completed HTML series successfully, and thank you very much for your patience so that you have came so far till here. And what is my advice is don't stop here. You have completed your Introduction to web development successfully. HTML is an introduction, definitely. And the very next stage is you need to start learning CSS. Once you complete HTML, now the second step is you need to learn CSS, because we now know all these elements and how to use it, but we don't know how to style those elements, how to do animation stuff, some little bit of animations and intro, outro animations, or some, just to make it look more beautiful and presentable, we use CSS. And then once we complete CSS, we will be learning JavaScript. Or before JavaScript, we will be learning Bootstrap. Don't worry, you don't have to understand, or this is not an introduction video for all this, but I must say that I'll be very soon launching CSS course. In fact, I'll start recording this CSS lectures from tomorrow itself. So if it is already launched, I'll be adding a link in the description. If not, you can ask me whether if the CSS course is launched or not. Okay, so we will, in CSS as well, we will have a very detailed steps. We will have several chapters. We will cover almost all concepts in CSS so that you can easily implement styling to any element in HTML. Right? So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, and I hope you have learned HTML very nicely. I request you to go ahead and practice it by yourself again and again, so that you are very familiar with all these elements and how to work with these elements, and be ready for our CSS course, right? So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you.